One officer became a real police reserve captain. Another officer's real-life racing career ended the night before he put on a badge. A third cast member is gone, remembered by a college he never stopped teaching at. Tonight, we find out what really happened to the cast of CHiPs. For 6 seasons, 2 motorcycle cops turned the freeways of Los Angeles into television gold. Nearly 50 years later, the badges are gone, the bikes are parked, and the cast has scattered into lives you would never expect. Let's begin with the man who made Ponch a household name. Erik Estrada. Erik Estrada was born Henry Enrique Estrada in Spanish Harlem, New York, in 1949, and as a teenager he dreamed of becoming a police officer before acting pulled him in a different direction. He got his start playing a gang member in the 1970 faith-based film The Cross and the Switchblade, and by 1977 he had landed the role that would define his career, the hot-headed, motorcycle-riding Officer Frank Ponch Poncherello on CHiPs. The show made him an international sex symbol, but the fame came with a painful cost. After a motorcycle accident on set, Estrada was prescribed painkillers, and he later struggled with addiction. He pushed through it, publishing a memoir titled My Road from Harlem to Hollywood in 1997. Decades later, he was still working, popping up in an Eminem music video, guest appearances on Scrubs and Fallout, and voice work on King of the Hill and Family Guy. Today, Estrada is married to his third wife, Nanette, and shares a daughter with her along with 2 grown sons. The man who once played a cop later spent years as a real reserve police officer, living out the dream he had as a teenager. But the badge wasn't the only story here. His partnership with Larry Wilcox behind the scenes was far more complicated than it ever looked on camera. Larry Wilcox played the steady, sensible officer John Baker, the calm center to Estrada's chaos, and for 5 seasons their chemistry lit up NBC's Tuesday nights. But off-screen, the relationship was strained. Wilcox later claimed Estrada was involved in getting him written off the show following a dispute connected to a motorcycle accident, and he departed after season 5. Rather than fade from the industry, Wilcox pivoted behind the camera, launching his own production company and, remarkably, building 3 separate computer companies over the following decades. He married Marlene Harmon Wilcox in 1986, and that marriage has lasted ever since. For years, fans wondered whether the tension between the 2 leading men would ever fully heal. Then, in a September 2025 podcast appearance, Wilcox confirmed that he and Estrada had rebuilt their friendship, describing their current relationship as warm and easygoing. Half a century after they first climbed onto those motorcycles together, the 2 men who once couldn't stand working 16-hour days side by side now speak fondly of each other. Sometimes the real ending is better than the one the tabloids predicted. Their commanding officer on the show had a story just as rich, and it connects directly to one of Hollywood's biggest current stars. Robert Pine played Sergeant Joseph Getrerer, the perpetually exasperated commanding officer trying to keep Ponch and John in line. And unlike many television sergeants, his career never slowed down. Pine has continued working steadily for decades, appearing in beloved films like Frozen and But I'm a Cheerleader, along with guest roles on The Office, The West Wing, and House. Before CHiPs even began, Pine was already married to actress Gwen Gilford, who was cast alongside him on the show playing Getrerer's close friend. Together they raised 2 children, Catherine and Chris Pine, and Chris would go on to become one of the most recognizable leading men in modern Hollywood. When Chris was asked what he learned from watching his father work, he said acting life isn't always easy, and that keeping perspective and a sense of humor through the hard stretches matters most. That lesson clearly came from a father who spent nearly 50 years in an unforgiving industry without ever losing his footing. Robert Pine is still acting today, proof that some CHiPs veterans never really left the beat. But not every member of that fictional patrol unit stayed in front of the camera. One of them found his second calling on a completely different kind of stage. Paul Linke played Officer Arthur Grossman, the department's reliable comic relief, and after CHiPs wrapped he kept working steadily, appearing in the film Parenthood and guest spots on Baywatch and Judging Amy. But it was tragedy that shaped the next chapter of his life. In 1986, not long after the show ended, Linke's wife, Francesca Draper, died of breast cancer, leaving him a single parent raising 3 young children. Rather than retreat, Linke turned his grief into art, writing and performing a one-man theatrical show called Time Flies When You're Alive, based directly on his wife's death. The production toured internationally, and was eventually filmed for an HBO special in 1989. Speaking to Cryptic Rock in 2017, Linky described those years as a desperate scramble to move forward emotionally and professionally while still holding his family together. In 1990, he married Christine Healy, who helped raise his children and later gave the family a fourth child of their own. By his own account, the story that began in devastating loss eventually found its happy ending. Linky's path proves something this list keeps circling back to. Cast members who left the badge behind often found their most meaningful work far outside a police uniform. One of his fellow officers found his second act on a high school sports field. Brody Greer played Officer Barry Baritza, one of the steady supporting officers rounding out the CHiPs squad room for years. After the series ended, he continued working in film and television, appearing in projects like Terror Squad and True Blood. But by 2010, Greer had made a dramatic life shift, relocating to Carmel, California, and taking on a role coaching multiple sports teams at Carmel High School. Speaking to the Monterey Herald in 2015, Greer reflected on his approach to life, saying that wherever something interesting appears, you plant yourself there and see what happens, and that the outcome usually isn't negative. It's a philosophy that took him from a Hollywood soundstage to a high school gymnasium, trading motorcycle chases for practice drills. Few former primetime stars manage a transition that complete, walking away from fame to shape teenagers on a playing field instead of chasing ratings. Greer's story is a reminder that what happened to them doesn't always mean tragedy or disappearance. Sometimes it simply means a quieter, more grounded life. Actress who played one of the show's most memorable female officers took an even more private path. Randy Oakes joined the cast as Officer Bonnie Clark, one of the first female officers to become a fixture on the CHiPs squad, appearing in the role for 5 seasons. In 1980, while still working on the show, she married actor Gregory Harrison, and the couple has remained together ever since. After leaving CHiPs, Oakes continued to appear in television, including an appearance on Fantasy Island, but by 1985 she had largely stepped away from acting altogether, choosing privacy over the spotlight. As of 2015, Oakes and Harrison were living on a sprawling 10,000 square foot estate in Oregon, though records show the property was put on the market that same year. Unlike many of her castmates, Oakes never wrote a memoir, never did the convention circuit regularly, and rarely gave interviews about her CHiPs years. That silence has only deepened the curiosity fans feel about her. In an industry built on constant visibility, choosing to simply disappear from it can be its own kind of statement. Not every officer on that show was even a trained actor first. One cast member arrived on set as a genuine world champion, Bruce Penhall. Before Bruce Penhall ever wore a CHiPs uniform, he was already a legend on 2 wheels. Penhall became the World Speedway Motorcycle Champion in both 1981 and 1982, and he made history as the first American to win the title back-to-back. He announced his retirement from professional racing on the very night he won his second world championship, standing in front of a home crowd at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Just 72 hours later, he stepped onto the CHiPs set to begin filming, and within the first 5 episodes, NBC and MGM announced he would co-star alongside Erik Estrada for the show's final season as cadet, later officer, Bruce Nelson. After CHiPs ended, Penhall continued acting in projects like the Savage Beach film series, while also competing in offshore powerboat racing, where he became a champion yet again. His life took a devastating turn in 2012 when his 21-year-old son Connor was killed by a drunk driver while working construction on a closed freeway. Penhall has said publicly that the pain never truly fades, it only becomes something you learn to carry more quietly. Today, a Memorial Cup race is held in his son's honor every year. Penhall's story shows how the line between a television hero and a real one can blur completely. Not every performer on this list is still with us, and one especially beloved cast member's passing came as a shock to an entire generation of fans. Clarence Gilyard Jr. joined CHiPs for its final 2 seasons, playing Officer Benjamin Webster, but the role was only a stepping stone toward a career that would make him a genuine action movie fixture. He went on to play the wisecracking hacker Theo in 1988's Die Hard, appeared as Marcus "Sundown" Williams in the original Top Gun, and spent years as Conrad McMaster's opposite Andy Griffith on Matlock, before becoming Chuck Norris's crime-fighting partner on Walker, Texas Ranger. In 2006, at the height of his recognizability, Gilyard made a striking career pivot, stepping back from steady acting work to become a professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he taught theater and film for over 15 years. He returned briefly to the spotlight in 2021, reuniting with Bruce Willis for a Die Hard-themed commercial. On November 28, 2022, Gilyard died at his home in Las Vegas after a long illness, at the age of 66. His passing was announced by UNLV, where colleagues described him as a beacon of strength for everyone around him. Chuck Norris posted a tribute online, calling him a dear friend and co-star, and sending condolences to his wife and children. Gilyard is laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Los Angeles. He spent his final years shaping young actors instead of chasing more fame, and that choice may be the most telling detail of his entire story. Another CHiPs alum found his own kind of immortality, not in Hollywood, but among the stars. Michael Dorn joined CHiPs in 1979 as Officer Jebediah Turner, his first regular television role after a producer spotted him in a guest appearance and connected him with an acting coach. He stayed with the show for 3 seasons before moving on to a string of guest spots throughout the 1980s. Then, in 1987, Dorn was cast as Worf, a Klingon officer serving aboard the Enterprise on Star Trek. The Next Generation, becoming the first Klingon in franchise history to join a series' main cast. He would go on to reprise Worf across 7 seasons of The Next Generation, 4 feature films, several seasons of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and even returned to the role decades later in Star Trek, Picard in 2023. By the time all of it was tallied, Dorn had appeared as Worf more times than any actor has ever portrayed a single character across the entire Star Trek franchise. Away from the screen, Dorn became a licensed pilot who has owned several aircraft over the years, including a vintage F-86 Sabre jet. He has continued working steadily into 2026, with fans still hoping he might one day return to the role that defined his career. From patrolling a fictional California freeway to commanding a starship bridge, Dorn's transformation remains one of the most unexpected journeys on this entire list. One more actor made an equally strange leap, going from playing a chimpanzee to keeping the CHiPs motorcycles running. Lou Wagner had already built a distinctive resume long before he ever stepped onto the CHiPs set, having played the sympathetic chimpanzee Lucius in the original 1968 Planet of the Apes and appearing repeatedly in Jack Webb's Dragnet revival. In 1978, Wagner joined CHiPs as Harlan Arliss, the department's eccentric mechanic, and he stayed with the role all the way through the series finale in 1983, appearing in more episodes than almost anyone else in the cast. After the show ended, Wagner kept working steadily in character roles, appearing on Yes, Dear, Girlfriends, The Millers, and Raising Hope, while also becoming a familiar face to an entirely different audience through a McDonald's commercial campaign where he played the Professor for more than 15 years. As of 2026, Wagner holds a distinction few actors can claim. He is one of only 2 surviving members of the original Planet of the Apes principal cast, alongside actress Linda Harrison. Born in 1940, Wagner has quietly spent nearly 6 decades working in the industry without ever becoming a tabloid fixture. His career is a reminder that longevity in Hollywood rarely looks like stardom. It usually looks like showing up, decade after decade, in whatever role comes next. One more familiar face from the show first appeared as a chippy, designed specifically to add glamour to the series. 50 years is a long time for any television family to stay connected, and the CHiPs cast has scattered across coaching fields, cockpits, classrooms, and quiet estates most fans will never see. Some found new fame, some found peace, and one is remembered by every student he ever taught. What remains is the memory of 2 motorcycle cops who once made an entire country tune in every week, and the very human stories that carried on long after the cameras stopped rolling. If there's another Hollywood legend or celebrity you'd like us to feature, let us know in the comments.